Charles Barkley just crossed a line that no one saw coming. The NBA legend didn't hold back. He exploded on LeBron James and Kyrie Irving for what he's calling the ultimate disrespect to Magic Johnson. We're talking about a full-blown war of words that has the entire basketball world picking sides. What did LeBron and Kyrie say that pushed Chuck over the edge? And why is Magic Johnson caught in the middle of the most explosive NBA drama of 2025? Buckle up, because this story gets wild. It's early February 2025, and the basketball world is already on fire with trade rumors, playoff races, and the usual drama. But nobody, and I mean nobody, expected what was about to drop. During a casual post-game interview, LeBron James made some comments that immediately raised eyebrows. He was talking about leadership, basketball IQ, and decision-making in high-pressure situations. And while he didn't name names at first, the subtext was crystal clear to anyone paying attention. LeBron hinted that some of the older generation didn't understand the modern game. He talked about how the game has evolved, how players today have to deal with different pressures, different media scrutiny, different everything. Fair enough, right? But then he went further. He questioned whether some of the legendary players would even survive in today's NBA with the way they made decisions. The implication? Magic Johnson's name started floating around immediately. Now, if it was just LeBron, maybe people would have brushed it off. Maybe they would have said he was just talking, being philosophical, doing his usual thing. But then Kyrie Irving decided to jump in. And when Kyrie gets involved, you know things are about to get complicated. During his own media session just days later, Kyrie doubled down on LeBron's comments. He talked about how the game has changed, how leadership today requires different skills, and how some of the past legends get too much credit for things that wouldn't work anymore. Social media went absolutely nuclear. Twitter exploded with hot takes. Instagram comment sections turned into war zones. And every basketball podcast suddenly had emergency episodes. Fans were divided right down the middle. Some people defended LeBron and Kyrie, saying they were just speaking truth about how the game has evolved. Others thought it was disrespectful, unnecessary, and completely out of pocket. But here's where it gets really interesting. The media started connecting dots. Journalists began pulling up old clips, old interviews, old moments. They reminded everyone about Magic Johnson's time as an executive, his brief stint in management with LeBron's organization, and the complicated history there. They brought up Kyrie's history of making controversial statements that get him in hot water. And suddenly, what seemed like casual comments about basketball evolution became something much bigger. This wasn't just about the game, this was personal. But here's where it gets complicated, because while all this was brewing, one person stayed suspiciously quiet. Magic Johnson himself didn't respond immediately. No tweets, no Instagram posts, no public statements, just silence. And in the NBA world, silence can be louder than any response. People started speculating. Was Magic hurt? Was he angry? Was he planning something? The tension kept building, and everyone was waiting for someone to make the next move. That someone turned out to be Charles Barkley. And when Chuck speaks, the world listens.
Charles Barkley saw what was happening, and he wasn't having any of it. During a live broadcast in mid-February 2025, Chuck went completely off script. You could see it in his eyes. He was genuinely upset. This wasn't his usual playful roasting or his humorous takes on the game. This was personal, and he wanted everyone to know it. "Let me tell you something right now," Barkley started, his voice already rising. "LeBron and Kyrie need to pump their brakes. I don't care how great they think they are. I don't care how many championships they've won. They do not get to disrespect Magic Johnson. Period. End of story." The studio went quiet. His co-hosts exchanged glances, knowing this was about to be one of those moments. Chuck was just getting started. Magic Johnson is a 5-time NBA champion. He revolutionized the point guard position. He made basketball exciting in a way that saved the league. And these guys want to sit here and question his basketball IQ? Question his decision-making? Are you kidding me right now? Barkley's frustration was palpable. He wasn't reading from notes. This was pure, unfiltered emotion. But then Chuck went even further. You know what really bothers me? It's the disrespect. LeBron wouldn't even be in the conversation without players like Magic paving the way. Kyrie wouldn't have the platform he has without the foundation Magic helped build. And instead of showing gratitude, instead of showing respect, they want to tear him down? Nah, I'm not with that. That's weak. The internet absolutely lost its mind. Within minutes, clips of Barkley's rant were everywhere. Twitter was on fire with reactions. Some people were applauding Chuck, saying he was defending the game's history and standing up for what's right. Others accused him of being a bitter old head who can't handle the fact that the game has evolved. The debate intensified to levels we haven't seen in years. Fan reactions were split right down the middle, but they were passionate. One fan tweeted, "Charles Barkley is 100% right for this. LeBron and Kyrie are out of pocket. Magic is a legend. Show some respect." Another fired back, "Chuck is just mad that LeBron passed him in every conversation. Let the new generation speak their truth." The battle lines were drawn and everyone had an opinion. What made this even more explosive was the timing. This wasn't happening in the off-season when people are bored and looking for drama. This was happening in the middle of a competitive season, during a playoff race, when emotions were already running high. And Chuck's comments weren't just heard by casual fans, current players were paying attention too. Some quietly agreed with Barkley. Others felt like he was attacking the current generation unfairly. But here's what made Chuck's rant so powerful. It wasn't just about defending Magic. It was about something deeper. Barkley was speaking for an entire generation of players who feel like their contributions are being diminished, questioned, and disrespected by the current stars. This was about legacy, respect, and the culture of the NBA. And Charles Barkley wasn't going to let it slide without a fight. The question everyone started asking was simple. Would LeBron and Kyrie respond? Or would they let Chuck's words hang in the air? Either way, the damage was done. The conversation had shifted, and the basketball world was more divided than ever. To really understand why this situation exploded the way it did, we need to rewind and look at the complicated history between these players. Because this isn't just about one comment or one interview, this is years of tension, ego clashes, and unresolved issues finally bubbling to the surface. Let's start with LeBron and Magic. Their relationship has always been complicated. On the surface, there's mutual respect. Magic has praised LeBron publicly many times, calling him one of the greatest ever. LeBron has acknowledged Magic's impact on the game. But beneath that surface, things are messier. When Magic was in an executive role, there were reports of tension behind the scenes. Decisions were questioned, communication broke down, and ultimately things didn't end well. Nobody talked about it openly at the time, but everyone in NBA circles knew there was friction. Now, LeBron has never been one to directly call people out. He's usually more subtle, more calculated with his words. But those who know him well say he doesn't forget. When he feels slighted or disrespected, he remembers. And if you pay close attention to his comments over the years, there have been little jabs, small hints that maybe his respect for Magic's basketball mind isn't as strong as people think. This recent situation just brought all of that to the forefront. Then there's Kyrie Irving, who operates on an entirely different wavelength. Kyrie has built a reputation for saying controversial things, for questioning narratives, and for refusing to fall in line with what people expect him to say. Some people love that about him. They see him as authentic and fearless. Others think he's just unnecessarily provocative. But one thing is undeniable. When Kyrie speaks, people listen. And when he co-signed LeBron's comments about the older generation, it added fuel to a fire that was already out of control. What makes the situation even more complex is the generational divide it exposes. This isn't just about three individuals beefing. This is about a larger cultural shift in the NBA. Today's players feel empowered to question everything. Coaching decisions, front office moves, media narratives, and yes, even the legacies of past legends. They have platforms through social media that give them direct access to millions of fans. They don't need traditional media to control their message anymore. But the older generation, players like Charles Barkley, Magic Johnson, and others, grew up in a different era. They were taught to respect the legends who came before them, to honor the history of the game, and to understand that they're standing on the shoulders of giants. When they see current players questioning or diminishing past accomplishments, it feels like disrespect. It feels like ingratitude. And for someone like Chuck, who played his heart out and helped build the NBA into what it is today, that's unacceptable. Magic Johnson's silence during all of this only made things more intense. People expected him to respond, to defend himself, to push back against the criticism. But Magic stayed quiet. Some people interpreted that as class, taking the high road and not engaging in petty drama. Others saw it as strategic, letting Charles Barkley fight his battles while he maintained his image. Either way, his silence spoke volumes, and it left everyone wondering what he was really thinking. The history here runs deep. It's more than basketball. It's about respect, ego, legacy, and power. And when you mix all those ingredients together in the pressure cooker of the NBA, explosions are inevitable. Once Charles Barkley dropped his verbal bomb on national television, there was no containing the fallout. The media machine went into overdrive. ESPN dedicated entire segments to the drama. Sports talk radio couldn't talk about anything else. Podcasts that usually cover X's and O's suddenly became therapy sessions for fans trying to process what was happening. This wasn't just basketball news anymore. This was cultural commentary about respect, generational conflict, and the evolving nature of athlete empowerment. Other NBA legends started weighing in, and the reactions were all over the map. Some retired players sided with Barkley, saying the current generation needed to show more respect to those who paved the way. They talked about how players today have it easier in many ways, better training facilities, more money, more control over their careers, but somehow still find ways to complain about the past. These voices argued that Magic Johnson deserved to be honored, not questioned. But not everyone agreed. Some former players actually defended LeBron and Kyrie, saying they had every right to speak their minds. They argued that basketball has evolved, that the game is more complex now, and that honest conversations about the past are healthy, not disrespectful. These voices claimed that the older generation was being too sensitive and couldn't handle criticism. The fan reaction was even more divided. Social media became an absolute battlefield. LeBron fans defended him fiercely, saying he was just being honest and that people were overreacting. Kyrie supporters claimed he was being authentic and that the world needs to stop policing how he speaks. But Magic Johnson fans, and there are millions of them, felt genuinely hurt. They saw this as an attack on one of the most beloved figures in basketball history, and they weren't going to let it slide quietly. Memes flooded the internet. Some were funny, some were brutal. People created side-by-side comparisons of Magic's accomplishments versus LeBron's, trying to prove who was more deserving of respect. Others made jokes about Kyrie saying controversial things, as if it was just another day ending in Y. But beneath the humor, there was real tension, real anger, real frustration. What made this even more explosive was the silence from LeBron and Kyrie after Barkley's rant. Days went by with no response, no clarification, no apology, nothing. And in the absence of their voices, everyone else filled the void with speculation. Were they unbothered? Were they planning a response? Did they even care what Charles Barkley thought? The uncertainty only made people more invested in the drama. Behind the scenes, according to sources close to the situation, there were conversations happening. People were trying to mediate, trying to calm things down before they got even worse. But the reality is, once something like this goes public, it's nearly impossible to put the genie back in the bottle. The damage was done, relationships were strained, and the basketball world was watching every move, waiting for the next chapter. The stakes were higher than just hurt feelings. This was about legacy. For Magic Johnson, his reputation was being questioned by two of the biggest stars in the modern game. For Charles Barkley, his credibility as a truth